Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. I think we can start. I would like to ask Sylvie Matar. To start our workshop.
Thank you, Lesia. Do I understand that it's we are kicking off this seminar?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So I would like to say a very warm welcome to all of you. I see participants joining on quite a nice speed, and we are expecting quite a few participants on this workshop. So warm welcome from very cold Geneva, actually. My name is Sylvie Matar, and I'm the Deputy Director for the Regional Office of United Nations Environment Programme here in Geneva. So welcome to this second regional workshop on sustainable public procurement, which has been raising in importance in the region. And sustainable public procurement is without any doubt a very efficient policy instrument to support a transition towards sustainable development and inclusive green economy. Governments can lead by example in their own purchasing. By doing so, they can increase demand and help to create new markets for sustainable goods and services. Currently, between 9% and 25% of GDP in countries in the region is spent for public purchases. Sustainable public procurement is one of the 6 programs of a 10-year framework of programs on sustainable consumption and production implemented by the One Planet Network, which is a global initiative adopted at the Rio+20 summit. Since 2014, UNEP has supported countries in introducing sustainable public procurement using UNEP's methodology. UNEP has been a pioneer in promoting SPP in Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, through a number of projects. Some EU-funded projects such as EAP Green and EU for Environment, the Partnership for Green Economy, PAGE, and also through the UN Development Council's Sustainable Public Procurement Project, under which we are organizing this conference. This project, which is called Enhancing Sustainable Public Procurement for the Regional Transition to Inclusive Green Economy in Eastern Europe, Caucasus and Central Asia, is implemented by UNEP jointly with the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe and the Green Growth Knowledge Platform. This project aims to strengthen the capacities of countries in the region on sustainable public procurement and strengthen the capacity of businesses to respond to public tenders with sustainability criteria. We work specifically with countries in Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, and Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Moldova, and Belarus. As this UN Development Account project reached its end, today is a second Pan-European regional workshop, and its objective is to review the progress in the field of SPP and Eco Labeling. Countries will present and exchange their experience and lessons learned in the development of SPP and Eco Labeling policies, the capacity of public sector and businesses to respond to tenders and awareness. Example of good practices and success stories from the Pan-European region will also be presented and discussed. We have basically 3 main sessions in this workshop. I will be moderating during most of the event, and I would like also to ask participants for their understanding and asking questions in the chat, either in English or in Russian, so that we can follow the questions in writing in the chat and be able to answer to hopefully many questions from the audience. Now, without any further ado, I would like to invite Farid Yaker, our colleague, to present and introduce the first session. I wish you a very good discussion to all today. Looking forward to listening to very interesting things.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. I'm going to share my presentation.
Уважаемые коллеги,
Dear colleagues,
русского перевода нету, да?
I can't hear the Russian interpretation.
Здравствуйте, Байлы. Пожалуйста.
Hello, Bailey. You may find the icon of a globe down the screen. Now you need to press that and then select the Russian channel.
Just a second, Farid. We need
Okay.
to help our colleague in Kyrgyzstan.
Okay.
Есть ли перевод сейчас у вас?
So do you have a Russian translation right now?
Будем стараться.
Хорошо. Мы пока продолжим. Please, Farid, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity to present the Sustainable Development Goal 12.71, which is specifically, well, actually it's a target 12.7, but we are going to focus on the indicator 12.71, which measures the progress of the target 12.7. For those of you who are not familiar with the SDGs, and I think most of you are aware that there are 12 development goals, 17 development goals that were adopted in New York in 2015 as part of the development agenda, the 2030 development agenda. Then these 17 goals are divided into 169 targets. And one of the targets, which pertains to Goal 12 on sustainable consumption and production patterns, is related to sustainable procurement. And the target says that countries need to promote public procurement practices that are sustainable in accordance with national policies and priorities. And the indicator which measures this target, the progress of this target, is the number of countries implementing sustainable public procurement policies and action plans. UNEP is the custodian of Goal 12, and in particular, we're in charge of developing the methodology and measuring target 12.7 through the indicator. So what we have been doing is organizing the first data collection exercise after having developed the methodology. We had countries appoint focal points, basically the officials in charge of overseeing the implementation, the development and the implementation of the national sustainable public procurement policies. And we conducted this exercise from, let's say, September 2020 to February 2021. And to give you an idea about the methodology, it has three pillars. The first one is, we can say, the legal pillar. We're going to look at the measures taken at political and legal levels to facilitate the implementation of SPP. First of all, does the country have an SPP policy or an action plan or regulatory requirements? Then we're going to see if this regulatory requirement is conducive to sustainable procurement. We're going to look then at the practical outputs of the SPP policy implementation and the support which is given to public procurement practitioners. And finally, we're going to look at the monitoring system. Is there a monitoring system, and is the country capable of measuring the percentage of sustainable public procurement? So we get basically 6 sub-indicators which are related to all the factors I previously mentioned. Of course, the most important is the existence of an SPP action plan, right? But then we're going to look, and this responds to the indicator, which is existence of an SPP action plan, however, which needs to be implemented. Then, so we're going to look from B to F at the level of implementation. So as I mentioned, regulatory framework, practical support, development of purchasing criteria, existence of an SPP monitoring system, and the percentage of SPP in public procurement. And we give a score to all these sub-indicators. However, you have to look at the difference here. For sub-indicator A, it's a 0 or 1, meaning that if country doesn't have an SPP policy, it cannot comply with the indicator. If it has an SPP policy, then we're going to give it a score of 1, and we're going to look at the level implementation through the scores given from B to F, which are ranging from 0 to 1 or 0 to 100%. So this gives us the following formula. The score is going to be A, which is 1 or 0. Do we have an action plan or not? And then we're going to multiply by sum ranging from B to F. Countries, we have developed a calculator. So the scoring is done online. Countries fill in directly the values in the calculator, and the score is directly computed. We have basically defined 5 levels of implementation. The first one is 0 when countries have insufficient data or they don't have an action plan, so A equals 0. And then countries are going to be distributed from 1 to 4, depending on the level of implementation, the level of maturity of the sustainable procurement policy. So what are the results of the first data collection exercise? We had 40 submissions from national governments. We had 39 submissions from subnational governments. And you see that Europe is leading in terms of sustainable public procurement implementation at world level. We had the greatest number of participating countries coming from Europe. And I'm going to show you also the results of the compliance later, and you're going to see that Europe is also doing well in this regard. In terms of who is reporting, we found out that it's equally distributed between Ministries of Finance and Ministry of Environment, of course, and this makes sense because we're talking of sustainable procurement, which belongs mainly to these two ministries in terms of mandate. So coming back to the results, this is the distribution we found. Among the 40, we had 7 countries that has insufficient data. Then we had 10 with the low level, 14 with medium low, and 9 with medium high. We had no countries scoring in the high level of SPP implementation categories. In terms of results per region, you see here that for Europe was the most compliant, and you see in dark green the one that scored in the high level, and you see that Europe has the largest number well represented in this category. They're even well represented also in medium low level. But it's good to see also that other countries are catching up: Latin America, Asia Pacific, and we still need to have good representation for Africa, but we're hopeful because things are picking up there also. In terms of who are the countries, you have them here: Belgium, Bulgaria, France, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Netherlands, and Portugal were in the high level in terms of Europe. Denmark, Germany, Norway, Poland, Slovenia, Sweden in the medium low. In terms of the sub indicators which had the highest score, you can see that countries are doing well in terms of legal, well in terms of practical support, but they still need to improve in terms of the percentage, the real quantification of SPP. You see the sub-indicator F here at the far right is really low, is really poor. In terms of regulatory framework, we see that Europe is leading together with Northern America. And Europe is doing well in terms of including specifications, in terms of using life cycle costing also, in terms of defining selection criteria. In terms of practical support, Europe is also leading, practical support for practitioners. We see that Europe is doing well on all the aspects, developing guidelines, communication, training, a little bit less in terms of developing help desk, but it's still leading in this area. In terms of developing purchasing criteria, we are leading. However, this percentage is low, so it needs to be improved. We have to develop more criteria for more categories of products. This is the products that are leading in terms of inclusion in sustainable procurement. You see that we still have the usual suspects: cleaning products, paper, office electronics. However, the impactful categories are coming up. Construction materials, for example, building, etc., is there in the ranking. Social criteria also are on the rise: the protection against human rights abuses, the promotion of SMEs, transparency and accountabilities. And I will finish with the monitoring of SPP. Here we see also that Europe is leading in terms of monitoring, putting in place the monitoring systems for its SPP policies. And this monitoring is in terms of Europe really mostly on the contracts that are monitored, and like most countries, we are still not monitoring enough the outcomes of the sustainable procurement policies. What are the impacts, the benefits on sustainability that we are achieving through our sustainable procurement policy? Europe has to work more in this regard. So monitoring of contracts is good, monitoring of outcomes is really lagging behind. Thank you very much, colleagues, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much, Farid. That was an interesting landscape you presented us, and very interesting numbers you shared, including also the need to improve the percentage altogether of sustainable public procurement. So there is still a long way to go, nevertheless. Thank you, Farid. So maybe I'll ask Lesia to zoom in the policies on SPP and Eco Labeling in the region covered by the UNDA project. Over to you, Lesia.
Спасибо большое, Сильви, за предоставленные...
Sylvie, thank you very much for passing me the floor, and I'm very grateful to our colleagues. There's so many with us today. Let me start my presentation now. As Farid already told us, the UNEP is a pioneer in facilitating the sustainable public procurements, both at the level of states and at the level of regions and global level. And on this map, you can see most of the countries which are receiving significant support from UNEP in terms of promoting the ideas of sustainable public procurements and environmental marking and labeling and the model of sustainable consumption and the production. During the first workshop, a regional workshop that we've organized here in Geneva, we've showed you this map. Now that was in 2019. As you can see, the countries
достаточно активно используют
have been quite actively using this tool that in some countries we see there's more progress, some other countries lack this progress, but we still have outlined our first steps to be done in the Eastern European countries, Caucasus and Central Asia. And over these recent 2 years, due to the support provided by some international organizations, due to the support provided by different projects, we have managed to attain results in the countries, especially in the countries of Central Asia. And today we will hear more about it from the representatives of those nations. And with regards of Georgia, Ukraine, and the Republic of Moldova, as you know, since 2014 to 2017, there was being implemented a project supported by the European Union, which is called the EAP Green, and the initial steps were made back then in those countries. Now we are the support goes on through the EU funded project, which is called EU for Environment, and the main attention in these countries has been placed with the assessment of the possibility of the implementation of the SPP and the assessment of the ecological eco-labeling, if this eco-labeling is present in the country, if it's being developed, and what are the lessons we would like to learn from the experience of the eco-labeling used in these countries. And at the same time, there were improved legal acts in the field of sustainable public procurement that allowed to add to the existing laws on the SPP certain elements of ecologicity, sustainability, and ability to use non-pricing criteria to be, and the ability to use sustainable criteria. Our plans in these countries within the EU for Environment project is the development and of training materials and the improvement of the legislation and the implementation of these elements in real life, and the improving of the platform of digital procurement in these countries, and the development of guidance and instructions, and the conducting of the raising of the awareness. We will also be supporting the countries in outlining of the most priority products to be potentially piloted in the SPP pilot projects. With regards of the Central Asian countries, the main support has been provided by the project, which targets the reinforcing of the potential and the capacity of the SPP, both on the side of the businesses and on the side of the state agencies and bodies, and the provision of technical support to the companies and enterprises to use the sustainability criterion, and to explain that this tool does exist and it's something that you can actually use in state procurement. This project was being implemented since 2018 till 2021, and today is the second regional workshop within the framework of this project. And if we take a look at what there's going on in the following countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, we see that the share in the SPP or within the GDP, the difference ranges between 7 to 9, and in Uzbekistan it reaches 21%. We also see that the eco aspects of the procurements in the above mentioned countries, it's either partially used or is weakly applied or is not applied at all. And this is something that let us think that let us think to develop plans that we can actually apply in the future. And eco labeling in the above mentioned countries. In Kazakhstan, it's weakly developed and it's not used during the procurement processes, nor it's used in Kyrgyzstan nor in Uzbekistan. In Uzbekistan, eco labeling has already been developed, and with the help of our project, we've conducted legal survey and of the institutional and legal basis for the implementation of the SPP, and we also made the survey of the market readiness, and we started prioritizing the products which can be regarded as ones that can participate in SPP pilot projects. And you see the list of the goods and services for the SPP in Kazakhstan and in Kyrgyzstan. And in Uzbekistan, our activity is targeted at developing of eco criteria for 10 groups of goods, and we work along with the committee on ecology to develop the eco criteria for those goods. With regards of the main needs in the countries, with regards of the promoting of the SPP, as we see, all the countries have stressed their attention that training is an important component, training of different groups of participants of this process, both the procurers and the suppliers and those who participate in bids and those who develop policies, those who develop legal acts, bidding documentations, and so on and so forth. It's so much important that the representatives of companies and business people be trained. I mean, those are the very people who can actually impact the process of the production of the products that they produce at their facilities. All the countries have drawn special attention at the political will and at the decisions made by their respective governments to start walking on the path of transform their economy, thus getting closer to the sustainable and green and circular economy, getting closer to the SPP. And SPP can serve a good tool for this type of transition. And they've also outlined the importance of international support, in particular the experience exchange, and so they be able to study the experience of other countries in which the SPPs are strong. Over this period of time, we've conducted several regional events, like it's already been mentioned today, the first pan-European regional workshop on the SPP was conducted in Geneva. This is the second event of the kind that we're currently attending. In between these, we conducted several online workshops in March and in on SPP and eco labeling, along with our partners from DDKP, from the platform on the green knowledge. And in several countries, in the countries, we've also conducted a lot of meetings, which have been conducted as workshops, seminars, trainings, and raising awareness campaign, outreach campaigns. And you've seen that we've conducted different work meetings with the ministries and with the Ministries of Finance, with the environmental agencies of different countries. We also conducted trainings, and we would like to express our gratitude to our colleagues in the Central Asian countries that this time we've managed to be working with the colleagues from the Ministries of Finance and of the respective nations. And in many of those countries, we've been supported by the Ministries of Finances. These are the very ministries who are responsible for the state procurement, and these ministries are open and willing to cooperate and to be conducting dialogue with us. And part of our project was also meant to provide technical assistance to the SMEs, and this is something that we will hear more today. And if there are any SME representatives from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Ukraine, we would like to remind you once again that there's an opportunity right now to be given free of charge technical support from Eco national and Eco international experts to help you to learn more how you can improve the use of eco aspects in your activities, and to define your readiness as of today to participate in the SPP bidding. And that is, you learn if your product or produce meets the international requirements and criteria, and to what extent eco aspects are taken into consideration by you and by your companies. And so all the representatives of all the producing companies, please learn about it, and we will provide you that support. A page, the page for the project has been created, and I'm welcoming everyone to use this information and to use this page. The information on the page is both English and Russian, and you will find the information that we've managed to gather over the period of the duration of the project, and each country is analyzed. This page is being improved, more information is being added, so I hope that by the end of this year the page will be fully operational, but please use it now. And at the end of my speech, I would like to express my gratitude to all the colleagues and to all the partners in the countries for quite interesting and productive 4 years of work that we have spent with you, lived with you, worked with you, and I hope you will continue this work, and we hope that this project has helped you to make your first steps, and you will never stop. Best of luck to you, and wish ourselves fruitful workshop that we're having today. Can we ask questions right now? Yes, you can chat your question, and when you speak, we will actually give you the word, because I think you're next in line, if I'm not mistaken. But again, let me give the microphone to Sylvie so that she continues the seminar, the workshop.
Thank you so much, Lesia, and thank you for a very interesting and exhaustive presentation. I think that gives us really a lot of discussions. I've got a few questions myself, but it's not up to me to ask the questions. But I see a few questions and comments, I think, in the chat. I'm sorry if I cannot read the questions in Russian. I will ask you to check whether this is a question we have in the chat, Lesia.
Yes, let me please go ahead, and I will address the comments. They are mainly asking about or shall I read the comments now?
I think if you can go through the comments and translate it on the spot, that would be useful for all participants. Maybe I see that a compliment on the very interesting presentation, but that's about what I can read in Russian. I cannot go further than that.
Yes, I think the other participant just presented himself. So far, I don't see the questions to the presentations, but we will provide links. I see there is a request about the link.
Yes, it has been answered. So that's all very fine. We are nicely in time. I keep my own questions for later. Then I put it in my pocket and then walk them up afterwards. So let's move in the other session. I think we will be zooming in the experience of specific practitioners in the countries. So without any further ado, I would invite representatives from Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Dozaliev and Mr. Kanimetov, to take the floor and give their presentation.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues. And it's this workshop proves to be quite good and interesting. And we discussed the SPP. This is very interesting. In our republic since 2019, under the aegis of the UNEP, the State of State Procurement Department is implemented the project on the implemented of the principles of sustainability in the process of state procurement. And this very project is implemented along with the NGO, the Center of the Promotion and Development of the experts of which give us consulting assistance, provide us with consultant services. Within the framework of the project, there's been done the following work: the analysis of the legislative base among to govern the sustainable public procurement, the assessment of the readiness of the local market to provide to be provided with the green products, the selection of the priority products for the SPP, and the development of the technical specifications for the priority products this for the SPP, and the preparation of the training materials and the media products on the SPPs. And following the results of the work done, 3 pilot priority projects were selected. Those are the LED lamps, the young bushes and trees, and the personal protective equipment and the personal disinfection equipment. And they've been also developed technical specification for the pilot priority products to be approved. And to develop the technical specification, there was developed a project of the decree of the Cabinet of Ministers of the Kyrgyz Republic, which as of now is being coordinated by the respective state entities and bodies. And they've also been developed 10 bidding documents and technical specification for the conducting of the next in line pilot procurements, the LED lamps for the in-house lighting, and the disinfection substances for the state department of the presidential administration. The LED lamps for the external lighting for the municipal companies and enterprises, Bishkek Svet, the lighting company of Bishkek. Knowing that this project is over, we would like to express our gratitude to the UNEP for further support or helping us to find future donors to be continuing implementing the sustainability processes within the realm of the SPP in our republic. And for the implementation of the sustainability, we suggest that the implementation of new project be discussed, which the project should target the dominating of the practical aspects such as the implementation of the monitoring system of the state procurement according to the technical specifications approved, and the selecting and the testing of the samples of the products to participate in the SPP. The improvement of the municipal objects project using green technology, the expanding of the spectrum of the green products to be implemented into the process of the sustainable public procurement, and the assessment of the reduction of the impact on the environment from the eco products used and the green technologies used procured within the framework of the SPP.
Including the assessment of the greenhouse emissions. The advantage of this sort of approach is that the local authorities can support it, and the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Technical Supervision, the Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Education and Science, the Ministry of Health, they also ready to support this project. The organization of civil and business societies of the country that are implementing green economy projects, they're also happy to support this. The international organizations and the donor countries offering technical and financial assistance to Kyrgyzstan on implementation of the sustainable development projects. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Over to Mr. Nimitov.
Спасибо. Сейчас мы подключим презентацию.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll launch the presentation in just a second. First of all, I'd like to say that we've been cooperating with the UNEP for 3 years on implementing the sustainability in the public procurement. And we've taken several steps in this direction. So first, we've made an overview of the current status. We've overviewed the legal and institutional processes of implementing the SPP. Then, using the UNEP methodology, we've identified the prioritization of the selected products, and we've also analyzed the readiness of the market to the implementation of those products. The third step, for those priority products, we've prepared a list of specifications. We've also developed guidelines on the identification of specifications. Besides, using those guidelines, we've organized a series of workshops for procuring organizations and suppliers. And we've introduced a number of regulations, particularly the regulation of the government, in order to, well, consolidate all of those changes. I have more detailed information on that later on. In the overview of the current situation, we've learned the international experience, we've analyzed the legislation, that we've also analyzed all the strategic papers and policies regulating the green economy. As the result, we came up with the list of obstacles and also developed recommendations on how to overcome those obstacles. Later on, in the frames of prioritization, we came up to understanding the sustainability from the points of three aspects: environmental security, environmental economic effectiveness, and social justice. Talking on the environmental security, we've considered that from the standpoint of polluting the air and water, different types of wastes, then the consumption of energy and the availability of quality standards. So we've analyzed what sort of eco labels do we have, do we not. The economic efficiency was assessed from the standpoint of the life cycle, and the social justice was analyzed in terms of the number of labor places and national productions. Then the methodology for prioritizing the product. We've updated the methodology that we've seen, and in addition to the average indicators, we've added some more. And this issue of environmental protection and quality standards, we've done just a bit more with regards to the other factors. So as the result of this assessment, among the whole list of pre-selected products for further implementation of the SPP principles, we came up with the following assessment results. The closer to 1, then the priority would be higher, and that is why the first place would be siblings, then LED lamps, that's second place, and the third place that would be services to clean the sewages and organic different fertilizers. In the same time, in 2020, and because of the COVID-19 and because of special requests from public agencies, we've also included the individual protection means into that list. And we've developed also specifications for individual protection equipment. So we've we've selected 3 products among all, would be the siblings of trees and bushes and LED lamps. And when we've done the project, the first draft of the specifications, we've had discussions of those specifications with the producers and the suppliers. This is the meetings of our experts, and they were discussing the specifications for siblings and LED lamps. So as the result of this active discussions, we've managed to came up with the final list of technical specifications, and we've used that for developing or drafting the guidelines. The other aspect, we've conducted a range of training workshops for the vendors as well as for the consumers. We've received some sort of a support and assistance. As I've already mentioned, all of the developments that we had were approved through the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, and it clearly states that there is a need to approve the list and the specifications for the pilot project or pilot products in terms of SPP. Also, we need to approve the methodology and criteria for prioritization, as well as approve the guidelines on the development of specifications. And we've also came up with the special tool in order to increase the list of priority products on a year-to-year basis, so that they would be approved following the methodology that we have developed. And a lot of authorized public agencies, including the industrial public agencies, being the developers of specifications, we made sure that they are developing those specifications with account to innovative developments. More specifically, In some of the laws that we have, they were approving the old norms in terms of the sewage constructions, but the technologies they do develop, they do improve, so we need to update those standards. And some of the existing normative documents contain the old standards, particularly with regards to sewages. One more thing, we've also came up with the sort of stimulative mechanisms in our norms that would promote the energy efficiency projects within public agencies, as the public agencies has to allocate the certain fundings to, well, ensure the energy efficiency. So this is something that we've also thought about. Then another aspect was taken into consideration, particularly the reporting should be developed on a yearly basis, as well as the monitoring and assessment system on implementation of the SPP. And in terms of monitoring of SPP, we have a committee that is regularly monitoring a series of indicators, and they should do that in close cooperation with the Department of Public Procurements. So on the overall, I've mentioned the major aspects of this resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers. Currently, it's being submitted for the coordination with the other public agencies and the ministries. And we've selected a number of consumers for running the pilot tenders. For example, all of the buildings of the public agencies, they're being rented from the Department of Public Premises. So this department is the one that is procuring construction materials, LED lamps, and so on and so forth. So we've met together, we've signed an sort of agreement for the development of tender or bidding documents. Then for the municipal enterprise Bishkek Svet, and this is the one that is responsible for illumination of our streets and premises. So we are working from the top and from the down. That is, we are trying to motivate this process in terms of promoting certain legislation, and we are working with the consumer organizations. We are explaining them. We're trying to well, further promote the SPPs in the tender procurements. Of course, we've promoted all of those processes in the media. We've made 3 social videos, and we've posted them on the Facebook page that we've created as specifically in the frames of this project. So thank you for your attention. This concludes my briefing.
Thank you so much for this deep dive into all the process, and once again covering many aspects, which are, and one question is indeed about the stimulation of innovation. I think you mentioned during the presentation, which is quite important and crucial. Thank you for sharing the experience. So let's move to maybe representative of Kazakhstan, Mr. Baltabayev.
Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me the floor. I think Mr. Tuleshev should be the one to well, to provide the first briefings, as he's the managing director for e-Finances Center. This center is a governmental organization under the Ministry of Finance of Kyrgyzstan, and this was the organization that created the operator services in terms of the public procurements in Kazakhstan. So if you allow, I would like to pass the floor to him first, to pass the floor to Mr. Tuleshev, and he would be talking on the progresses in public procurements on behalf of the government, and I would then be able to present a few words in the frames of the project that we've been implementing.
For sure, for sure. Please go ahead.
Спасибо, Konish. Thank you very much. I'm struggling a bit. Shall I speak in Russian or in English? But I think that the English would be more comfortable for me. If you'll excuse me, I will just start off in English. Thank you again. It's a great pleasure for me to have such a wonderful audience. As you know, as Konish also has explained, the Center for Electronic Finance, we are fully owned by the Ministry of Finance, and we are the operators of the electronic state procurement systems. The system that we have is the processes all the government, all the state, the procurements. And in one of the presentations we have had earlier, it was showing the little bit incorrect data. The volume of transactions that goes from throughout our systems is close to 30% of the GDP of the country, which is quite a lot. We do acknowledge that having a sustainable development programs embedded through the state procurement system is very crucial. In fact, this problem has been highlighted at the highest level. The president of the country, Mr. Tokayev, has emphasized that the moving to the sustainable development is a key step of one of the key programs that has been put in front of our government. So, however, at the same time, as previous presenters have emphasized, having the sustainable development on the agenda is not enough. We need to more at every level, from top down as well as bottom up. What I mean is that the role of the communities, societies, not only the government, the organizations, but the public organizations are also very important. Working very closely with the SME is also important. Having eco markers, as has been highlighted, is also very important. All of this together will drive us towards the green state procurement, as we were saying. What we have right now is the tools that are available that our organization operates. So, for example, we have the so-called the marketplace, where the state the organizations can go and directly purchase the products at certain criteria that meet certain criteria directly from these marketplaces. As a next step would be, for example, embedding that ecological, that green markers into that marketplace, so we would have a more measurable and more controllable monitoring the information on place. We have also initiating another discussion on how we can, for example, control the total life cycle of the project. So for example, if we're buying the LED lamps, we need to take into account how long these LED lights will serve. So not to over the purchase, and overexpend the money as well. So that is the next initiative that we will be embedding into our system. And obviously, all of these initiatives are done with the help of the UNEP, and we greatly acknowledge them and thank them for their support in this area. In terms of the further developments, we will continue working directly with the EcoGer, our great friends in translating all the UNEP initiatives and helping us to deliver the message directly to all the participants of the state procurement systems. And I would like to also again thank you again for this opportunity to have this little short speech in front of the great audience, and I will be open for any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. So maybe back to Mr. Baltabayev.
Да, спасибо.
Yes, thank you very much. Back to sharing my screen.
Начиная с прошлого года мы
Starting last year, the association was engaged, the UNEP was engaged to the analysis, the readiness of the Republic of Kyrgyzstan for switching into the SPP. And within the framework of this work, we had to assess the factors that are functionable in Kazakhstan and how the legislation is made, if the legislation matches the criteria of sustainability, if this legislative base allows us implementing the SPP in Kazakhstan. And this is what my presentation will tell you about. Can you please share the presentation of yours so that it covers the entire of the screen? We see it only partially. We see a screen. We don't see any slides change. Your slides don't seem to change. Let me try again. Do you see my slides? Yes, we do. Thank you very much. Let me start by saying that the Republic of Kazakhstan, in our republic, there's the system of state planning, state strategic planning. We have the branch law, which is called the state strategic planning and law. And according to this law, the strategy for the development is developed. Now, this is the strategy for development of Kazakhstan till 2050. Based on this strategy, the overall national plans are being drawn. As of now in Kazakhstan, there's the national development plan for Kazakhstan till 2025. And we also got territorial development plans, and there can also be developed concepts, national projects in certain branch criteria. And as you see, the strategy for Kazakhstan till 2050 is frankly actually sets lots of definite objectives in the field of ecology and sustainable development. Number one is the transformation of the energy sector of the nation. The Republic of Kazakhstan is a country with rich carbon deposits. We have lots of oil and gas and coal, but at the same time, when the strategy was being adopted in 2011, back then, Nursultan Nazarbayev was the president, and he raised an issue of for more sustainable trajectory. Kazakhstan back then had to develop green technology, transforming its fuel energy sector. The transformation of this sector was meant to develop Kazakhstan business based on ecology standards, thus giving rise to ecological brands that was meant to be of the world quality level, and the consumption of the natural resources was meant to be reduced, and the rational consumption was meant to be developed. And all this has been reflected in the strategic development plan, and this plan reflects both ecological and environmental protection issues and the state procurement issues. On this very slide, you can actually see that the issues of state procurement is top priority, and they have been so, and it's the economical and social criteria of sustainability is top priority. Through the system of the state procurement, it's planned to be increasing the share of local content, and the development of offset policies are being discussed, and the top priority is improving or increasing rather the transparency of and the implementation and the using of the budget funds, decreasing of the and the improving of the use of the budgets and reduction of the corruption. And using these state procurement tools, we think we would actively stimulate and create more messages to promote ecological brands or ecological sustainable goods. But unfortunately, as of now, strategic wise, within the plan for Kazakhstan till 2025, in the part of the modernization of state procurement, it's not reflected. But within the very legislation of the Republic of Kazakhstan, you can see that there are certain things that are relevant to the ecological sustainable development, and on this very slide you see the main principles of state procurement. As I've told you, that's the best use of fundings from budget and the equality for the providers, level playing field, and the not private, no corruption, transparency, and innovation support, improving of the innovation and new technologies. And all these principles, they have been reflected within the state law on the state procurement and are currently being implemented on different levels in real life, in real practice. If we take a look at the state procurement within Republic of Kazakhstan through the sustainable prism, the ecological aspects may be regarded the following. In Kazakhstan, the products that are produced from recycled projects, materials are being better treated, are accepted, and all social aspects. I would like to say that a lot of attention is given to the support of local manufacturers and the supporting disabled people and creating of innovation and new jobs. With one point of view of economy, we reduce corruption, improve competition, we implement digital procurement tools, and improve the use of budget fundings. And before this, my colleague has said that the Digital Finance Center in Kazakhstan creates a certain, has got a certain platform for digital procurement. In Kazakhstan, as been said before, there's been actively implemented SPPs. For that, a special web portal has been created for state procurement, and through this very portal, all the procurements are done, and it's got all the information on the buyers from this, on the part of the state agencies, state bodies, and the suppliers, both legal entities and individual entrepreneurs are also listed there, and they're willing to provide their goods and services following a request from a potential buyer. Following results of 2020, despite the fact that the state procurement and the work of the Minister of Finance and other respective agencies is dedicated to the promoting of competition through the system of state procurement and promoting the open market. We have to admit, unfortunately, that the dominating way of procuring of state procurement is the buying from one sources by means of direct order contracts, and you can see this within the statistics provided on the screen. And the second most popular is the open competition, and the open competition is the one that promotes the development of competition, improving the transparency of the state procurement. And the main task in Kazakhstan is to make the open competition be more and more, gaining more and more popularity, and the preliminary selection competition is another tool. Within the framework of the preliminary selection, the suppliers are studied that would like to provide their services to the state agencies and bodies, and thus, on one hand, the integrity of the very suppliers is checked and improved. On the other hand, the state has a chance to more efficiently spend the fundings from the budget. And the main thing in our survey has been to define the factors that hamper Kazakhstan fully implement the SPP, and respondents responsible for the state procurement on behalf of the state agencies and the participants and the suppliers, they've said that the key factors, hampering factors, is that the defining factor during the bidding, at the bidding, is the price. And in Kazakhstan, the number of the suppliers is not big, the ones that supply to the state and the state agencies. And number three, that in Kazakhstan, there's a lack of political will, what Liza has said, to conduct the state procurements, and there's not enough competence and the knowledge to develop the standards and the assessment techniques of the sustainability of the goods, and to develop the technical specifications that would meet the principles of sustainable procurement. With this regard, we've figured out that it's needed to improve the knowledge and competence of the state procurers on the sustainable procurement by means of trainings and by creating of databases in which you can, from which you can learn more. And we also need expert assistance. And we also think that those norms that are out there in the legislation of Kazakhstan allow implementing pilot projects to understand what's got to be improved within the system of state procurement. And we suggested to define the services and goods that can be piloted through the state sustainable procurement project. Currently, this project is being implemented in Kazakhstan. We have a certain priority defined, and we think that most likely it's going to be the disinfection substances, paper products, files, plastic files that will be piloted. This is what Leila has shown in her presentation, and Kazakhstan has got to urgently start work on improving the eco standards of eco labeling to be able to be tracing those substances and things, rather, that will be part of the marking, labeling, and so that there's no greenwashing and there's no counterfact. So no product is faked to look like a sustainable product. So that's it that I wanted to say. If you've got questions, I'm willing to answer those with great pleasure.
Thank you so much. I think we will take questions at the end of this session, but thank you very much for your insights as well. Then some insight from Uzbekistan, Mr. Talipov.
Greetings. Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. And greetings to the colleagues from UNEP and all participants of today's second Pan-European Regional Workshop on Sustainable Public Procurement. Just before I start my presentation, I want to inform you that presently we have also another Central Asian conference on the winter cold deserts that's taking place in Tashkent on 2nd and 3rd December. And that's the reason I'm not in the office, but in the venue place, and we might experience some drop on the connection quality or the voice. I hope it will not be the issue while I'm doing the presentation. I'm Jahangir Talipov. I represent State Committee of Ecology and Environment Protection, Republic of Uzbekistan. We've been intensively cooperating and coordinating, involved in this project during this implementation phase, and I would like to express our gratitude for the team of the UNEP team on this project that it's been ongoing despite the COVID challenges and that we all faced in the past 1.5 to 2 years. And our presentation will be brief about our activities that we've been interacting with the team of this project team in frame of this project in the last months. Next slide, please. Next slide. Can you, Babur? Can we go for the next slide?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you. Let me just touch base the ground framework of this eco-labeling and the standards and where we stand on this regard. The number of strategic documents has been adopted in the past few years in Uzbekistan. I won't be naming all, but criteria has been reflected in the concept of environment protection until 2030, which has of this our activities in the field of document has integration of environmental certification into our policy in the system, and introducing international standards, ISO standards, and establishing environmental management system and introducing mechanism for mutual recognition of the environmental standards certifications among the Uzbekistan and neighboring states, among the CIS states and the European Union has been also reflected as one of the aim and objectives for us until 2030, and followed with the governmental resolution on implementation of the system of voluntary ecological labeling of the products that's been also adopted by the government, which promotes investment opportunities, which promotes the enterprise to introduce international standards and of the products and items that they produce, and eco-labeling has been also reflected in this document. Last but not least, one of the important documents for us is the third environment performance review of Uzbekistan, which has been developed by a group of international experts of the UNEP, has been developing between 2019 and 2020 government of Uzbekistan in field of environment, and also reflects the promotion of scheme-based eco-labeling, including the application of international recognized eco-labeling schemes and raise public awareness of eco-labeling. Was also mentioned in this third review. Next slide, please. Yes, skip this one. And we do clearly understand the importance of the institutional capacity building, trainings, importance of trainings for the experts, specialists involved in this field. And to that end, we have this year we have signed a memorandum of understanding with Eco Union, organization known was based on in Russian Federation, and as part of this agreement and memorandum, a number of online and in-person trainings were conducted in 2021. Despite this COVID challenge, our specialists had a chance to visit Russian Federation and participating on the trainings, capacity building trainings on this eco labeling and on the ecological certification and eco markirovka, we call it. So in the eco labeling trainings, and next slide, please. Next slide. We appreciate the support that for this that made this trainings possible. We appreciate support of this specifically this project and Ms. Alessia for all her support and the coordination of this kind of activities, the capacity building activities that made it happen. And at the moment, we all know that Uzbekistan is going under the positive dynamic reforms, and a lot of many activities are happening in the construction, various development activities are taking place in the country. And with knowing this, we do realize the importance of developing the standards that's more focusing with focus of the construction material, and also which will allow us to facilitate goods. Let me also mention that Uzbekistan's state status, in April 2021, Uzbekistan was granted the European Union's this special preference system, and with that it creates us better conditions for the exporting our local products. And we do believe that introducing the international standards on the eco labeling standards will also increase the chance of the local producers to export the crop. But we do next slide, please. We do realize that the sustainable public procurement is one of the areas where we have there's a room to grow. There is needed to institutional capacity building, trainings, updating the legal framework, and many more. And in this regard, we see such importance of such programs that UNEP has offered, and we hope that it will continue with the next phases, and that we can continue our collaboration, because Uzbekistan, the public procurement is also one of the areas where the Minister of Finance coordinates, and we have clear, transparent bidding, tender procedures. But we do understand that sometimes there is it requires more resources to participate in the biddings if you have a secondary recycled products, rather than primary raw materials that's been produced and to for certain purposes. So therefore, we have to think and create some incentives for the companies that have a secondary recycled products. And with this recycling, we do understand that it will reduce the volume of the accumulated waste on the landfills, on the polygons, and it will reduce the impact for the environment, and will create a new job opportunities, new incomes for the other enterprises. So with this, I stop my presentation here, and I thank the UNEP team and for this given chance to intervene in this section, and for this opportunity of running this trainings for our specialists and at the State Committee of Ecology and Environment Protection. So thank you. And before I leave, I stop my presentation, I would have to inform you that, as I mentioned, I'm participating in the other conference where we are about to start the next session. I have to attend, my presence is required, but my colleagues, Babur Mahmoudov and other colleagues from State Committee of Ecology are present. If the participants have questions to us, we are happy to receive them from chat and follow up with email and responses from the participants. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie and colleagues.
Thank you so much, Mr. Talipov, and thank you also for making this very nice transition to the next session. Actually, when you mentioned going to the supply end and all the opportunities, but also challenges there accessing to a sustainable public procurement. So thank you for making the transition for me, actually, and wishing you a very good other conference then. I would like to know whether there are some questions after this session, this third session. I don't see any in the chat. Lesia, do you see any in the chat questions relating to that specific session on insight from countries?
I don't see questions either. There is one missing question to Mr. Farid, but I think he can address this question when we start session 5.
Okay, thank you, Lucia. So you allow me to go into the next session where we're going to look into indeed the supply end. And I would like to invite Mr. McNulty from JGKP to start the discussions.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. And let me just take a second to share my screen, and then I can jump straight into this. Okay, so yes, my name is Hannes McNulty, and I'm with the Green Growth Knowledge Partnership. And specifically what I do is I lead the work of the Green Industry Platform, which is one of 3 platforms under this. And today what I'd like to do is talk about some innovative tools for SMEs to help them understand their resource efficiency status and also then easily access the most relevant support services. So with that, let me jump straight into this particular presentation, which is about Igo. Igo is a new initiative that we have developed under the Green Industry Platform, and its focus is really how to give SMEs tailored, let's say, recommendations and directions to a really customized list of support services that matches their needs. Now, just let me quickly actually explain who we are and what's behind this Igo initiative. As I mentioned, I'm with GGKP, the Green Growth Knowledge Partnership, which is a partnership led by the 5 organizations you see at the bottom of the screen: the World Bank, UNIDO, OECD, and UNEP and GGGI. And what Green Growth Knowledge Partnership does is it brings together all related green growth related, let's say, knowledge, support services into one place under these 3 platforms related to green industry, green finance, and green policy. And what we do through these platforms is bring knowledge together, but also generate new knowledge and promote all the knowledge we get from other organizations to make better use of it. So we are really there to help all types of initiatives, projects, organizations reach out to a wider audience and to help them improve what they produce and share on knowledge related stuff to help the, let's say, the green transition overall. Now, where Igo fits into this is under the Green Industry Platform. We want to help SMEs become more resource efficient. It's not just about helping SMEs become green. We're very focused. We want them to become more resource efficient. Resource efficiency, by this we mean how can they save energy? How can they save water? How can they manage their waste? How can they be more efficient with materials and use more sustainable chemicals? So very concrete approach to helping SMEs become more resource efficient. Of course, the Green Industry Platform is a global initiative, and the chances of any SMEs coming to us to get help is quite slim. So Igo was born out of this need. How can we bring what we do to an SME in a way that supports them directly to improve their resource efficiency? And also, how can it motivate them to want to become more resource efficient? Because in many cases, SMEs aren't interested in green, are not interested in resource efficiency. They just want to make business. So of course, Igo is there not just to bring the idea of resource efficiency to SMEs, but also to help them understand the benefits of it and make a business case for it. So essentially, the challenges we're trying to overcome with Igo is how to reach large numbers of SMEs and, of course, then help them individually according to their specific needs. And so Igo is not just a way for us to reach SMEs, but it's also really a support structure which aims to not just help SMEs, but also to understand what's available out there for them. So that means we also help supporting organizations, SME supporting organizations, that provide resource efficiency information, resource efficiency support services like training, financing, etc. So what we do is we try to understand what's available, we try to understand an SME's needs and match make the two together. So we help really a wide range of stakeholders, all with the ultimate objective to have SMEs understand the benefits of resource efficiency and access what they need to become more resource efficient. So let me explain how Igo works, because we need to talk about the tools element of Igo. And Igo is really, like I said, a support structure that is made up of a variety of different, we'll say, innovative tools. The first is actually quite simple. It's like a database. Country by country, we go and find out what is available in that country or what's available to SMEs in that country with regard to resource efficiency information like technical guides, case studies, benchmarking tools, calculator tools, etc. But of course, also these support services like training, technical assistance, and of course, financing. This is our database. That's our first step, bringing the information together. However, it is quite complicated for any SME to navigate a big database with all the different information, to even understand what's relevant to them. So what we have done is we have developed a very simple self-assessment tool. And I would like to stress, this is not a diagnostic tool. This is a high-level self-assessment tool to understand roughly what this resource efficiency status of an SME is, so that we can guide them to the right information in our support center. What it does is it essentially allows an SME very quickly to go through a short questionnaire to understand roughly if they have done anything on resource efficiency, if they have, in what area, and if they're advanced, have they gone into their supply chain? So it just gets a basic level of resource efficiency status. Using the output of the self-assessment tool, their resource efficiency status, their location, their sector of activity, and their size, we can automatically go into our SME support center or database and pick out the most relevant information and support service for that SME that will most help them address their specific resource efficiency needs. And I want to say this is where we're at the moment with Igo. We are at the stage of this support center and this self-assessment tool. However, next year, we want to go a step further. We don't just want to direct SMEs in the right direction of support services. We also want to make sure that they implement actions in the most efficient, effective way. Because at the end of the day, an SME, if they do something on resource efficiency, it is to prove something maybe to a client or to their bank to get a loan. It's generally they want to demonstrate their performance. And for that, we will be developing our implementation manager tool, which is quite simply put a way for them to manage the information or the data of their project. It's a way for them to manage their audit data. It's a way for them to manage the measurement data of their actions before and after the action. And it's a way for them to present their overall performance data in a concise, simple way so that they can demonstrate this to a client or, like I said, a financing entity. So it's very much a data organization tool. It's helping them go through the steps of their project and collect the right data to demonstrate their performance. Now, all of these tools are, in fact, we could say nearly useless unless we can convince an SME to use them. So they're great tools, but our challenge is still to convince SMEs to use them. And this is why we have a second very important element to Igo, which is the development of an Igo network. In each country, we are developing, or each country where we're currently working, we are developing an Igo network of two types of organizations. Organizations that help SMEs, whether it's through training or information, whatever it may be, and organizations that have access to SMEs, like a business association, but of course, nearly most importantly, like large companies who have a supply chain of SMEs, because we need to have a way to engage with SMEs and sell the business case for resource efficiency. And for that, we need to have a very strong local connection through this Igo network. Now, with the Igo network, there are, of course, it's not just that we want to use the network to help us. We also want to help the members of this network make better use of what they're doing, to be able to help them reach more SMEs, to have a bigger impact. And for that, we help them on a variety of areas. We help them actually, one, promote their organization and their activities through our platforms. We give them a lot of exposure to a wider audience. We support them very strongly in engaging with each other. That means we have a platform called the Green Forum, which is a bit like LinkedIn, but provides a community space for different organizations to engage with each other. We also, through this engagement strategy, will help organizations connect with project funders, donors, etc. And of course, we will be able to give organizations that are part of our network very good feedback from SME users. We have our self-assessment approach where we begin to understand the needs of SMEs. We have our collection of available information in our SME support center. So we see what's available, but also what's missing. And this gap analysis information is very important feedback to the different organizations that are in our Igo network. And of course, when we bring all of this together, Igo is like a closed, I won't say closed, like it's very much a support structure that connects our Igo network members with the SMEs in a very coordinated fashion, creating a feedback loop so that everybody has a benefit from it. And we are testing out the concept of Igo in 3 regions: Eastern Europe and Central Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And what we're doing is testing out how easy it is to collect information, to build up our support center, how to adapt our self-assessment tool to the specific local situation, and of course then test it out with specific SMEs to see what they think of us, what needs to be improved, etc. So we are actively collecting information and developing our Igo network in these 3 regions. In Eastern Europe, Central Asia, we are specifically looking at the Ukraine, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan, but also the region as a whole. And I would invite any of you that are interested to learn more about Igo, the work we're doing, and of course, the tools that we're putting out there that ultimately we want to be of benefit to the sustainable public procurement approach. Please let us know. I've put the contact details in the chat and would be delighted to hear from you. Many thanks for this. I hope I stayed within my time, and I hand back over to you, Sylvie.
Thank you so much. You stayed very nicely within your time, and thank you for sharing this very interesting network I was absolutely not aware of. But thank you so much. Just out of curiosity, can you tell us how many users you have currently?
Now, I need to be cautious because we're still in our pilot phase. And this means we have not launched it to SMEs yet. We are at the stage of developing this SME support center, of developing our Igo network, which is a network of SME supporting organizations. And early next year, we launch it for SMEs. So it is very much a stage where supporting organizations can join our network. And then from about February, we launch it to SMEs. And so from February, I can start tell you of the hundreds of SMEs that will begin to use our self-assessment tool.
Sure, it will be the case. Thank you, Hannes, very much. So let's move to the next presentation. Can I invite Mr. Vorfolomeyev, the Director of the Resource Efficient and Cleaner Production Center?
Добрый день. Спасибо, Сильвия. Добрый день, коллеги.
Well, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, colleagues. And my presentation will be dedicated to the advisory services for small and medium enterprises in Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. But I would like to start with providing a certain overview information, like on advisory assistance and our experience in that respect. Just a few words about our center. The center was established in 2013 for implementing the concepts of resource efficient and clear production within the national industry. And just a brief information on that. It's all about how the enterprises could be using more efficiently the raw materials, the energy, with limitation of emissions and wastes. We were working on informational support, organization of different activities.
And we also expanded the staff. I'm talking about the training and trainings for trainers and the branch manuals and working with universities. For example, 8 universities have now the subject in their curriculum. This is what we did. We also did some work in legislative field, but the most important, we consulted the companies, and this gave us a very important experience, because all through these 8 years, we have worked with more than 180 companies, and this has been direct consulting work. We, along with the company, would create a team, and we would measure the balances of calculations and the list of the things that they can actually implement at the end. So it was done within the framework of different international projects, and a big chunk of the international community is being supportive of these companies in their development, because we see that the companies usually target short-term advantages, and that's quite often they forget about the long-term perspectives and long-term development. And you see on the slide the results of the implemented, what the companies have already implemented once we've had conducted work with them within the framework of one of our projects. And this is the event, that's the measure that's been implemented. And the effect was several folds greater. And speaking about the work with the companies and the monitoring of their activities and the implementation of some of the aspects, we can say that we've had quite an interesting experience working with companies 5 years after we had met them for the first time, and we've seen that it was within the framework of the EU foreign farm environment, and we see that the companies implemented about 40% of their plans. At the very beginning, it was 25 to 30. I'm talking about the monitoring within the 5 years. Within the 5 years is 43. So you see there's some reaction following the push. The inertia was still there, but the inertia was being shrinked a great deal, and we see that the energy saving was the most important part. So energy is the most expensive sources. That's why the companies pay a lot of attention to this very important part. And again, we see that we have a short-term plan, and which is a serious problem, speaking about sustainable public procurement, because the companies are not ready to participate. They don't have the necessary certificates, and they don't have the necessary business processes. But once the procurement, the pilot procurement is on the market, they will not be able to react because they haven't been ready. They haven't been prepared. I'm talking about the companies. And a lot of importance placed on the international organization and the state, how the national companies get ready, even though they don't see any priorities in this, because as of now, these criteria are not present in the procurement criteria, but we need to help those companies develop. So once they see those criteria, the companies be able to start, because getting ready for the procurement takes time. Definitely, you need time for that, and the level of investment is not high. And we see that this is one of the markers, because all the companies would like to eco upgrade for eco upgrading, but when we talk about figures, when we talk investment figures, this is a different story, and those companies have got to be assisted in this. Among the barriers that we've detected is the staff and bosses quite often leave and new people come to those positions, and not enough skilled people. And I think this is the main problem in Ukraine, and it may also be the same in some neighboring countries. Speaking about the needs of companies, this is the survey that we started when the COVID started, and we seen there was certain restrictions. We asked the companies what they needed, and they replied that definitely fiscal, financial things is something that the companies always need, but for us, we received an answer, and it was very interesting that the company said they needed more counseling assistance, because in the past it wasn't that much important. But now we see that among the SMEs, the understanding that they need to be supported is gaining importance. So that's why it's so much important to provide that type of assistance to them in the field of SPP in particular. We see that consumers are expecting that the companies will be responsible for the environment, following the survey that we conducted in one of the countries. And as usually 98% of the companies are, they think that these issues of high importance, but at the same time, when we speak about funding, 98% turns into figures that are not as big. Going back to the topic of the project, that's the improvement of the SPP, financed by the UN. Our center is providing counseling services to the company, letting them prepare for the sustainable public procurement. Our partners are the organizations from Serbia, Austria, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, development group KZ, and the development group and the Center of Development from Kyrgyzstan are very important. Because when we talk about working with enterprises, it's so much important to have direct contact and direct communication channels. And these are the organizations that are assisting us in this regard. And to increase the number of the people and the companies who are aware of the SPP, we've conducted several workshops, training workshops in 3 countries, and we spoke about the national context and the approaches, as well as the approaches that the companies have got to embrace the eco labeling, for example, because the eco labeling is there is eco labeling that have got to be permitted by the external entities, and there eco labeling that can be done from the internal moves, and because the companies need to exist in the future. All the video of the workshops will be available, and if you would like to, if you've missed it, you can watch them again. Not all the videos are currently available, because 2 days ago we had a workshop. By the end of the next week, all the videos will be downloaded, both in English and Russian. Some of them are in Ukrainian for the Ukrainian audience, so everyone is welcome to watch them. And speaking about the consulting services provided to the companies, this is the work that is done with 40 companies in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Ukraine. And this is an offline type of work, because unfortunately there are COVID restrictions, and the duration is 3 to 4 weeks. And from our experience, the companies value this information, so if needed, we can sign the confidential information agreement. And I'm addressing the companies. If you represent those countries, you can submit an application to participate in the project. And there are few places left. And at the end, the company will get the report on the state of affairs and what's got to be done. what's got to be done for your product to produce be able to match the SPP criteria and the certificate. Definitely, when we talk about the conducting of the various assessment, there are several important stages, and stage one is the getting acquainted with the company and selecting of the information channel, communication channel, which is so much important. We ask the company to sign with a decree the focal points. This is a very important part, so that everything be done within the framework of the time framework. And stage two is the assessment of the entire company, the basic information, the products or the produce, and the assessment of the matching of the sustainable criteria. So this is the questionnaire. We have a special questionnaire developed according to the ISO 20400 sustainable procurement. It helps to define the shape of the company and what it knows. Based on the experience of our working with the companies, we know that some companies were amazed when they were asked about the impact on the environment of not only their products, but the product ingredients from their suppliers and the suppliers of the suppliers. So the company has got to understand, has got to make that step. So when we talk about sustainability, you shouldn't consider only your company, but you should also consider your suppliers and the entire chain of production and added value, and that of the added value. And I think this is a very important thing for the company, that the company has got to be aware of that. So the company will get this type of consultation within the framework of this work. Then the assessment of the very products or produce according to the sustainable criteria. Currently, we use the national criteria if they exist in the country, or the international criteria that we can impose, put onto the services and to see if they match the sustainability criteria. And most often, in most of those countries, the criteria are more or less similar, because those criteria are international ones, and this can be done. And even now you can predict if a company can participate in the state procurement, because I've told you this is so much important that for the efficient procurement it takes two: those who conduct the bidding and those who participate in the bidding. It's so much important, the willingness and readiness of both of the parties, both of the provider and the buyer, procurer and the seller. And that's why we need to help supplier, and the results provided given to the company, we report to the company, and we approve of the action plan for the company if they're willing to work seriously in this field. And we coordinate our activities within the framework of the project. We provide them with some counseling services as to, for example, where to find the eco labeling for eco marking, eco labeling, how to get in touch with the eco label manufacturer and what they can do on their own. And once the project is over, I think it will be interesting to conduct some monitoring activities to see what the company has actually implemented, and then make some success stories available to the rest. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for, and good to remind us that it takes two to tango. Thank you. So the last speaker of this session, can I invite Mr. Fresner to deliver a speech? It sounds you are muted, Mr. Fresner. Can you please unmute yourself?
So now you should be able to hear me.
Yes, we hear you.
And now you should be able to see me.
We see your presentation, yes.
Great. So Lesia invited me to share some observations regarding opportunities and challenges of SMEs within the framework of social sustainable public procurement. My focus is on Austria, simply because I'm Austrian. We have quite a long tradition in sustainable public procurement, and therefore we have analysis and data and can relate quite well actually what was the impact of SPP on SME here in our region and what was the response of SME towards SPP. Let me start with a few observations on trying to characterize what this strange animal of an SME actually is. 99% of companies here in Austria have less than 250 employees, and 90% plus have less than 20 employees. So actually, we might say we are working in a universe of SMEs here. What are key features of these SMEs? Definitely, they do have a very slim organization, which means in our respect, they lack in office staff. So they are strong in production, they are strong in delivering products, but they are not so good in administrative procedures, and they definitely will have resources and time to attend trainings. For SMEs, it's also difficult to take risks because of their size and their financial resources. To our experience, they prefer business as usual. They prefer to produce established products. I know that this is a contradiction because SMEs are very agile, they are following the market, but to our experience, simply in terms of resources, SMEs cannot take too many risks. And this is something our SPP programs have to account for. I'm actually using now two examples here. One from the very east of Austria, which is the capital of Vienna. You probably know Vienna, nice city, 2 million inhabitants. And the second example will be from the very west, which is the region, which is the province of Vorarlberg, which is located next to Switzerland. So this is a little bit separated by regions. It's also a little bit separated by the way people act, the way people think. Now let's jump into our first example. I'm showing here the example of Ökokauf in Vienna. The city of Vienna annually has a budget of 5 billion euros, which is quite something. And a big share of it actually is dedicated to sustainable public procurement, applying sustainable criteria. Products included are basically everything the city needs. This is printing brochures, this is paper, stationery, this is office equipment, this is household appliances. This also includes the vehicle fleet. This also includes construction services and so on. So basically it's a very broad range for which criteria and guidelines have been established, including resource efficiency, energy efficiency criteria, which are mostly based on eco labels actually. So the city is using eco labeling as part of their procurement procedures a lot. A very important step in formulating the criteria and in the application of criteria is the establishment of working groups. They are managed by the city by the responsible people for public purchasing, and they involve the target group. They involve suppliers, they involve lots of SMEs in the stage of developing criteria. So to spread the word, to spread information, to get SMEs on board. And then when defining tenders, to alert companies well in advance what is coming up. And to support this, there is a database which you might want to access for orientation. Mainly there are publications, pilot projects, and regular evaluations. Now are the results of these activities, and I think they are worth to be studied. The program started in 1999, and the data which I'm using here are from an evaluation in 2014. In these 15 years, annual savings of 15,000 tons of carbon dioxide could be documented as compared to using conventional products. 1.5 million euros in cost reduction are documented. And this is resulting mostly out of the application of life cycle criteria. So total cost over the life cycle of the application of vehicles, city lights, and so on. Significant awareness building is documented. So practically all enterprises in Vienna who are sort of suppliers know about the program, and one can say also understand the criteria. And there were significant reductions in pollutants. Just pick two examples. There was a 40% reduction in cleaning agents over that period to serve the functions of cleaning. And there was a reduction of 4 tons of solvents resulting out of these activities. To continue, let's switch the stage. Let's move to the western part of Austria. Example of Vorarlberg province, small province of Austria. What did they do? They included in their tendering system harmonized criteria. So they tried to standardize criteria all over the tenders. Reason being to familiarize especially SME with the criteria and not to surprise them with every new tender. They are using environmental product declaration as a basis, and on the right-hand side of the slide you see an example of such an environmental products declaration, which the suppliers of products submit for approval of the public authorities, and if approved, it's included in this database, and then exclusively products from this database with pre-approved products can be used in the public tenders. What is the motivation for the SMEs to participate? First motivation is to provide reference projects that the respective SME is able of complying with these standards. This is considered a major merit amongst us. And of course, practically speaking, participants, according to a survey done recently, simply expect higher prices in the future so that they can cash in for a small additional margin. What is other feedback from the evaluation of the program? It has proved very effective to involve SME early in the preparation of criteria and tenders to establish awareness and to establish a consensus about the criteria. The system of product specifications and product declarations works very well. A time buffer is required to allow everybody to get used to new criteria, new products. And an important element is a little bit what Andre also addressed. There is supervision and advice by the program to support SMEs, explaining the tenders, explaining the criteria, and so on. Now, coming to my conclusions, what would be the lessons learned from our perspective? First point, and this was mentioned already a couple of times today, there needs to be transparency of criteria, and they should be shared, they should be known and accepted. It's important to reduce risk, not to challenge SMEs too much by demanding application of new products from them, but providing a pre-selection in which the provincial governments have a strong role, a need for standardization of tenders so that people get used to the application procedure and do not have to put too much effort every time a new tender comes up. And all these programs also with us have constructive feedback so that there is learning on the side of the SMEs, so that step by step they can adjust to the sustainability requirements and can improve their tender success rates by this learning from constructive feedback from the authorities. And there definitely, as a last line, is a need to support SMEs in this process of innovation, in this process of greening the industry. With this, spasiba большое, and contact details are here. And I would be looking forward to taking questions, time permitting, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this very detailed and hands-on experience you shared with all of us. That was also very interesting, and the notion of innovation is not a magic trick. That takes a little bit more than that. Thank you so much, Mr. Freshney. I don't see questions in the chat. Lesia, can you correct me if I'm wrong?
There were a few, so I answered in the chat, and I will answer to Karan now that all presentations in English are already in the chat. So both in Russian, slides in Russian and in English, and they will be also on the website of the project, and I will provide the link. Sylvie?
Thank you so much, Lesia. That's very clear. So if you allow me, I would like now to hand over the moderation to my colleague Rie Tsutsumi for the last session, on which probably will highlight challenges and opportunities in a very detailed manner. So I wish you a good continuation of the discussion, and that was so far extremely informative, at least from my end. Over to Rie. Thank you so much.
Sylvie, before you go, we have to tell everyone that you have a great background. It's the first time I see it. And spoke about the targets and the SDG goals. We have them behind Sylvie, and it means that she's really pushing hard, and UNEP is pushing hard for their achievement. Thank you, Sylvie.
Thank you so much, Farid. Yes, I wanted to indicate indeed the color code, and that looks a little bit worrying for the Pan-European region included, that we are far from being on track on the SDGs implementation. So lots of efforts.
Thanks for highlighting this. Thanks.
And such workshops and efforts when it comes to sustainable public procurement, eco labeling, and so on, do contribute to implementation of SDGs at country level. But thank you, Farid, for noticing.
Thanks.
Okay, over to Rie.
Thank you very much, Sylvie. So we have one session with panel discussion left, which is about to exchange stories, challenges, and lessons learned from our project, as well as sustainable public procurement and eco-labeling initiatives at large. So this session would be chaired by Farid with help from Russia. And Farid, can I give you an impossible task? Because we are not, we are already at 11:09, and the workshop was supposed to finish at 11:30. I would like to ask the participants' patience to stay for 10 minutes. So I would like to propose to end this very interesting meeting at 11:40. So Farid, if you could keep, if at all possible, the panel discussion in 20 to 25 minutes, followed by Russia's poll, which is about the reviewing and evaluation is a we need a participation from all the participants in the meeting. And I would assume that would take 3 to 5 minutes, and I will do the closing remark in 30 seconds. So is it okay, Farid?
Well, the problem, I'm just the moderator, but speakers are going to decide about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask the speakers to speak. Initially, we had 7 minutes. I will ask them to speak in 5 minutes. So really sorry for that. But we had interesting presentations earlier. But I still want to take time really to have a special thank to one person that did a great job, supporting this program, who is Lesia. So Lesia, thank you so much. You were really at the heart of this program, and you did a fantastic job. And thanks for your dedication, for your interest, for your kindness. So I think we will be in touch. You're not going to be here. The program is going to end, but I'm sure there's going to be a continuation somewhere, and you're going to be with us, hopefully. Yeah, without further ado, then we're welcoming Dr. Kacha Demetrashvili, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the State Procurement Agency of Georgia. We're welcoming Ruslan Malai, who is the Head of the State Procurement Agency of Moldova. Natalia Goranda Burtnaru, who is the Director of Eco Contact Moldova. Ms. Olena Masliukivska, who is an expert from Ukraine and a very close partner in implementation there. Eric Mezalis, that most of you know, who is really a dedicated expert on SPP, is supporting a lot of the countries and the UNDA project. And Mr. Obakirov Batirbek, who is the chairman of the Board Association of Packers of Kazakhstan. We're going to start with you, my friend Kacha, and I would like to ask you, and we know that Georgia has been really achieving great strides in SPP, and we want to hear from you on where you stand in the process of supporting SPP through an amended legislation, and which challenges are you encountering and how you are addressing them. Please, Kacha, in no more than 5 minutes. Sorry for that.
Well, thank you. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it happens so that over the past several years, we've seen some inconsistent steps with regards to our suppliers and vendors on public procurements. In some cases, there were procurements of street lights and illuminations. The mayor the municipal department has procured a lot of buses with significant environmental standards complied with, and fortunately our legal or legislation foundation allowed to use those meet criteria and life cycle costing, and all of that was, well, inconsistent. But 2 years ago, we had the UNEP, so a request with regards to joining this initiative, and it was a great luck for us and how our government and our parliament, as we speak, is implementing a comprehensive program on the end-to-end reform of the ecosystem of public procurements, and those initiatives are currently in place. So we've decided for ourselves to go away from this development of action plans and policies. We've decided to combine those two trends, and over this year, together with the UNEPs, with the assistance of our experts, with the assistance of Farid, Eriks, and Lesa, and many other colleagues, and we are extremely grateful for them, we have created a special chapter in our law, and it's currently being submitted to the Prime Minister for signing. Hopefully the Cabinet of Ministers in December will make a decision to submit this draft law to the Parliament. We have agreed with the leading parliamentary committees to approve this draft law. So that was the first level of the legislative reform, and the second level was that we were developing a draft resolution of the government that contained a detailed recommendations of where and how should they use the specifications. The third aspect is all about the soft law, and that this level is absolutely crucial for implementing the reforms. We have established a number of guidelines and a large training module, and with the assistance of several ministries, we've developed the fourth block, and we've conducted the market trading analysis, that is to assess the readiness of the market, and our vendors told about the readiness of the market. We have identified the products, and what I wanted to share with you, at the level of the government, we decided not to touch upon the services or siblings or whatsoever, or different or difficult services. Instead, we've decided to come up with the gradual implementation of this very comprehensive and very difficult reform. As you know, we have European classifications of works and services, and it's in CPV codes of the products we've decided to concentrate. We have developed some specifications for them, and upon the adoption of this law by the Parliament, hopefully during the next parliamentary session, our government would be ready to approve the resolution so that our agency would be implementing those innovations into the actual public procurement. Thank you, Kaha, for this very interesting example from Georgia. We are very happy that Georgia has joined the other countries that are using the UNEP program to promote the SPP goals, and hopefully we'll have a chance to visit Tbilisi, and we're also happy to cooperate with you. So at this point, I'd like to go to Moldova online though, and to ask our colleague Ruslan Malai, with whom we've cooperated since 2013, and Ruslan is the head of the state agency on procurements, and Moldova has been participating in the first project on the SPP, and now joined the second project. So I would like to hear from you about any achievements that you've managed to come up with, any obstacles that you faced on this way. So please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for the possibility to join this forum. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed. I'd like to say that we've successfully implemented the first project. We had a government resolution that was designed to have all the public procurements to be sustainable by 2020. Unfortunately, we haven't reached the indicator that we wanted so, and I'd like to explain you why. In our opinion, even though the law that we've adopted in 2015, it was adopted by the parliament in 2015 and entered into force in 2016, and it contains the provisions on the use of SPP criteria. Even though there is no secondary legislation that would make it mandatory for the vendors to use those criteria for the procurement. Now, that was one of the reasons for failing to comply with the indicators. That's why we have drafted the resolution in the Cabinet of Ministers, and it's currently in the Ministry of Finance, and it will mandate the public agencies to include the specifications on sustainable development in the procurements. And the other problem is the knowledge and experience within the experts in the field of procurements. Without the knowledge and experience, it's uncomfortable for them to do the procurements. Therefore, in the upcoming projects, we'll be providing for the training opportunities for them. Then the lack of guides with model specifications on and criteria for sustainable procurements. And together with the UNEP, we've developed and published that sort of guide, and we'll amend it as follows. And the next program, we have problems with awareness on the advantages of sustainable procurements.
So that's why our Kyrgyzstan colleagues have made a promo campaign and the outreach. I'm going to be persistent in having this type of promo campaign to tell about the advantages of the SPP. That's it from my side. Thank you very much. I fully agree with the challenges outlined by Ruslan, especially the last one, that is the knowledge of the procuring organization and the outreach, the raising of the awareness. Georgia would be grateful if we be assisted in this. Well, the thing is that we have bylaws that are more or less okay developed. We knowing about those problems, we have developed several guidelines. We've conducted several workshops and seminars offline, unfortunately, because of the COVID. And I think that UNEP will drink with us some Georgian and Moldovan wine, and we will be able to meet. And I hope that they will not ban us from consuming wine, Georgian and Moldovan wine. Thank you very much.
Farid.
Yeah, thanks for keeping the time. Really, colleagues, you're doing a great job. Now we have a question for our colleagues from the Eco Contact Moldova, Tatiana. And I would like to ask you, Tatiana, you're also living in Moldova. Moldova is setting up its own national eco label. Can you describe the steps you're taking towards that goal, in particular the draft regulation on eco labeling? Do you see Tatiana online?
Tatiana, we don't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. Sorry, it's the speakers. Спасибо большое, Фарид. На самом деле,
Thank you very much, Farid. Moldova has done lots of steps to, starting with 2013, that sustainable procurement be part of the legislation. So this contact we developed the implementation of the eco marking according to the European eco label requirements. So despite the fact that in our legislation we had to provide to the Ministry of Environment the provision and not the directive of the European Union, we developed the draft by the government. However, since the decree of the government includes certain things which have got to do with authorizing and some other things that has got to be reflected in the within the framework of the legislation, our non-governmental organization developed some additional things that will have to be included for the eco labeling to be implemented, for example, into the law on environment. And with confidence, I can tell you, since Moldova is an agricultural country, eco labeling of agricultural produce were a priority in our country. We have some amount of authorized economic agents that have seen the potentials and that have seen the need to regulate the current eco marking, and currently they have access to foreign markets with their products. The aspects of energy saving is a little bit ahead of time, ahead of other categories of produce and products, and we can be definite that the offers and the work that was done is very important, because we've checked not only the legislative aspects as to how to apply this very thing into our legislation, but we also checked the institutional component. As of now, within the framework of our country, there is a special agency Moldova which is responsible for the accrediting, but within the framework of the Ministry of Environment, as for currently there is no commission, there's no body created that will be able of issuing this very certificate. So we're in the process of quite voluminous process for us to be able to transpose all of the eco marking criteria into our country. We need to do a lot of work, and I would also like to agree with my colleagues with Duma Malay and Domni Malay and with other colleagues that a lot of work has got to be done with the population and with the economical operators, because definitely before the economical agent, which is unaware of the advantages of this very eco marking, that he or she is not willing to pay additional money. It's our analysis we've conducted, we can be definite by saying that a lot of products produced in the Republic of Moldova do match the necessary criteria. And definitely we've got to make this procedure eco-friendly, user-friendly, so that everyone understands this, both economical operators willing to implement it in their work and our population. The work with the population, we do work with the population as the association, we a lot with the companies that are called Read the Label from a campaign. We speak with say that the label contains all the important information, and we hope that both this provision that's currently being developed by the ministry, it will be included probably in the next year's plan, in the work plan, year plan, and the institutional component, it will be very important. And as non-governmental sector, we always work with willingness to get the information correctly to the general public, so that each and every citizen understands that this eco label, eco marking allows telling about a better quality of the products and a better quality of life for all citizens of the Republic Moldova.
Thank you very much, Tatiana, for keeping the time also. And I know that we started by working on our agricultural products, organic products with Ruslan in Moldova a few years back, and this label is going to be very helpful. Certainly, it can also help you for exporting products to the European Union market, which is one of your objectives. So great job, and we wish you a lot of success. Thank you. Back to you, Lesia.
Now I would like to ask our colleague Olena Maslukivska from Ukraine. Ukraine for many years is helped by different donors, by different organizations. Olena, please, if you may tell us about the progress you have reached in Ukraine, and if this international support helps you building up rather more strategic decisions or solutions for the future. Thank you, Les. If you may, I would like to reply in English because the professional language is in English. So, but if my colleagues have got any questions, I will be willing to answer in Russian.
I'm very excited. I really impressed by the work that colleagues have been doing in other countries. Really impressive work, a lot to learn. In Ukraine, the process of establishing SPP has started in 2014. On one hand, the EEP Green Program funded by the European Union has started, and UNEP, using its methodology, started preparing the background for introducing the SPP in Ukraine. So in particular, there was a prioritization study conducted and 3 product groups were prioritized. Market readiness analysis has been completed, and also environmental criteria have been developed for these 3 prioritized product categories, namely heat insulation materials, paintworks, detergents, and cleaning products. And this work became very fundamental because when Ukraine signed EU association agreement also in 2014, and Ukraine became committed to use EU standards in procurement and modernize this procurement system, there was already material ready to be absorbed. And in particular, also UNEP supported and national SPP national policy in action plan, although it was not formally adopted, but it informed the design of the roadmap of the public procurement system reform, which was developed and approved in 2016. So what was also important that UNEP supported the first 15 pilot tenders in 2017-2019. And that was actually really supported and pushed the SPP forward. In parallel, for Ukraine, energy efficiency is very important. And such donor as EBRD, while working on energy efficiency, developed the module for procurement to purchase energy service contracts, the so-called ESCOs. And between 2016 and 2020, over 240 ESCOs with energy efficiency as a technical criteria have been tendered through the online system, procurement system Prozoro. Then in that period also we see that some other donors came to support different aspects of SPP development, like Slovak Aid supported the first e-learning course on green public procurement. Then GIZ came and also worked with developing additional 12 criteria. And we have now an online tool that procurers can use online tool for 12 product categories that procurers can use. It's readily available online. And then we had the EU for Environment program launched, which actually inherited and continued the activities on the EEP Green. So UNEP is currently working on developing 2 criteria for 2 new product categories, launching pilot projects for a larger amount for projects for tenders above 100,000 euros, which I think will be a groundbreaking, and the lessons learned will be extremely useful. And of course, working on methodological recommendations for procurers, because procurers in Ukraine are kind of afraid to use non-price criteria, being afraid of the prosecution from the different monitoring and auditing authorities. Then I was very privileged to work with the World Bank on their Green Public Procurement project. And what this project did is basically summarized all the achievements that have been happening through these years and developed the Green Public Procurement Life Map, which is essentially a synopsis of what happened and role of different players and processes. We also developed the implementation methodologies to guide the next steps for the SPP development. And I'm very proud of developing the e-learning module, which is now incorporated with the Kyiv School of Economics and a learning institution which offers this course online to anybody who is willing to do that.
If you could wrap up, Alena,
yes,
please.
I'm
Thank you.
just
Sorry for that.
finishing
It's
with
fascinating.
the fact that I think there is now a new span of the SPP development, because as our online Prozoro system is being upgraded, there will be new opportunities for the SPP to be introduced through the monitoring, through new ways how to select goods with environmental criteria. So I'm very grateful to all the partners, and I'm hope that UNEP will stay and continue working in Ukraine on SPP. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alena, for this great recap, and it's astonishing the progress you have achieved in 10 years and how you were capable of taking advantage of the different funding opportunities. So thanks for this testimony. We're now moving to Eric's with our Latvian expert. So your country has made good progress in recent years on SPP implementation. Actually, I showed in my presentation that you're among the leading countries in the world. So congratulations. And I think you contributed to that. Could you outline the main success factors of your policy and briefly present one particular success story? Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Farid. Здравствуйте, дамы и господа. Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
See you today and also to learn from your experiences. For start, to answer the Farid's question, I would like to say that in Latvia, we have perhaps a little bit peculiar situation that we don't use the term sustainable procurement so much, but we concentrate on the areas of sustainable procurement, meaning efficient public procurement, green procurement, and social procurement, just like according to the UNEP methodology. And when it comes to economic dimension of procurement, probably we have the same challenges that everyone has. Currently, we are working on centralization and also on developing a new tender evaluation criteria that we can use alongside the price, because this, as colleagues mentioned, it is also a big question in pretty much every country. Now, when it comes to green procurement, and maybe to answering Farid's question also, we have a three-tier system. We have mandatory categories of goods and services with methodologies. So when buying these, contracting authorities must apply relevant provisions. Then we have voluntary categories. It means that methodologies are there and contracting authorities are free to choose whether to use them or not. And then third tier is that our public procurement law supports green and also social criteria, I must say, at every stage of procurement cycle. So even without those mandatory categories, everyone who wish to apply them is free and endorsed to do it. And actually what we have seen and how we have built our system is that theoretically and speaking, everybody is very enthusiastic in the green procurement. But what we have seen in my country is that they apply it when it is mandatory, but when it is voluntary, well, unfortunately, the progress is not so huge. So like many colleagues mentioned today, we have been moving forward by launching the pilot projects. And then when we see that the pilot project works, we are making this methodology mandatory. So this is perhaps that peculiarity. Now, so what I would also like to mention is that we are buying, according to the green procurement criteria, goods and services for almost €1 billion per year. But again, this number might sound huge, but then again, the question is, what do we consider a green procurement? Whether if you tick just a couple of boxes in procurement, you know, is it a green procurement already, or you should do more? So this is the question I think we also have to think about it. So which kind of procurements do we label as green ones? And finally, regarding the social procurement, we are working with two issues. We have reserved contracts for social enterprises, and we are also now using the possibility to use a tender award criteria about the wages of employees involved in the contract execution. In very simple words, the bigger wage you pay, the more points you get. And very quickly, I will speak about one practical example that probably brings together these all three aspects of sustainable public procurement. We have seen recently that some municipalities in Latvia are doing centralized catering procurements. So they are buying catering services for their schools and kindergartens. And I think they are managing here several goals at once. It is professionalization. They are taking away this procurement function from very small procurement authorities that are not able to do it by themselves, like kindergartens and schools. They are promoting centralization, but at the same time, what they are doing is they are structuring the subject matter of the contract into lots, and they are limiting the number of lots to which one company can apply. And this is with the aim to support local SMEs, because otherwise the big company could come, take this contract for 5 years, and after these 5 years, nobody would be left at the local market. And they are also using these wage-related criteria. They are awarding additional points if you pay, you know, the bigger wage to these employees who are providing the food in the canteens. So this is one of the examples. I know that catering procurement is quite topical for every country in every case. So that's why I decided to promote a little bit and mention this example. So thank you very much. I want to say from my part, it has been great pleasure for me to work with you, and I hope that our working together, our cooperation will continue. So dear colleagues, thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric. This was very insightful, and indeed, we really appreciated your contribution, and I'm sure Kaha won't disagree with that. And back to you, Lesia.
Yes, спасибо большое, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. You've got a question in the chat, so please look at that. And we have a final question that we would like to send to Bakiev Baturbek, the president of the association from Kazakhstan. We are happy that you're with us today. And from your practice, which objectives or obstacles could be happening while applying for tenders in the field of SPP? Well, good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you for inviting me. I'm sorry for joining in such a format. I'm just leaving from one of the working meetings. I'd like to express words of gratitude for this wonderful program. There's a lack of dynamics, and I think we are currently considering very topical issues. I really like the presentations from all the speakers, and I'd like to mention some of the obstacles that we have faced as the association. Hopefully you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Please proceed. Well, in addition to introducing changes into the legislation, I would like to well, tell you the story that we've used in Kazakhstan. We've decided to have a upward approach. We have enterprises that are producing paper products like toilet paper, envelopes, many others, and they're using recycled raw materials. And just recently, we had a meeting with a large fund, and we've suggested to run a pilot project. Currently, we are buying toilet paper for a total amount of $1 million. So we wanted to change the technical specifications, but not on the whole scope of the project, but 5 or 10% of the total volume. We need to understand who from the players on the market can satisfy those needs and requirements. We need to be consistent, and these issues should be more actively developed in our countries. And I like the situation in Kyrgyzstan. They clearly mentioned there is a lack of political will of the leadership, the lack of interest from the producers. And listen, you had that in your presentation. And that's an absolutely correct information, even though in Kazakhstan some still believe that we need to conduct workshops. But listen, how many seminars should we conduct more? I mean, we could spend additional 10 years for conducting seminars, but what is more important, that it will not increase the lobbying of this issue from inside of those countries. I mean, those producers, they should be leading the work, and the European Union has to provide the technical support and maybe indicate which countries are successfully implementing projects. But we should not forget about the cross-cultural management. If the Poland succeeded, it doesn't mean that we would succeed using the same scenario. I mean, Ukraine has significant achievements, but we are an Asian country. We have a different mentality. We have 20 million of population, but we keep taking decisions as if we would have a population of 300 million. I mean, it takes so long for us to take a decision. That is why I do believe that the associations of businessmen should take the lead in this process, as they are directly interested in that, with the support of the your program. We believe that initiative is a wonderful one. Of course, we're ready to join, and we're ready to support this. And I understand that my briefings are the final one and everyone is tired. I just wanted to say that we are ready to actively cooperate, and we believe that the pilot projects should be implemented based on the existing enterprises ready to produce some products. In Kazakhstan, we have faced with a situation because there are large companies like light industry, Zara, H&M, Starbucks. I mean, Starbucks, they have perfect products being produced from recycled materials, but they're importing that to Kazakhstan from other countries. Why shouldn't they try to, well, contact the local producers? Why are we importing
Thank you,
napkins
Bakirov.
from Spain or somewhere else? Well,
Спасибо большое. Thanks a lot. I think we're now done with this great session, very inspiring. Thanks to all for very pertinent comments. And back to you, Lesia.
Betterbeck, I'd like to express words of gratitude for your live commands. This is something that we were really lacking. We were lacking like a voice from the enterprises, and hopefully you haven't violated any traffic code rules while answering the question. So yeah, Betterbeck added some dynamics to our conversation. So all those colleagues who stayed with us, we would like to have 2 or 3 minutes more of your attention in order to answer the question, in order to learn more about the situation, how what is the status of the development of SPPs in your country. So please, we've prepared these 4 questions for you. It's all in English and in Russian. So if you would please fill in that questionnaire so that we would get some more information on the status of those processes in your countries.
сложный второй вопрос, потому что мы не знаем, какая текущая ситуация.
The second question is fairly complicated because we don't know the current status, and many of us don't know. Well, based on your knowledge, based on the seminars and the workshops that you've conducted, the overview of the legal framework, this is something we've done in Kazakhstan. We've prepared recommendations, so there's some activities that we've conducted really.
Леся, активно вовлекайте нас, пожалуйста. Мы готовы.
Well, please involve us actively. We're ready for that. Agreed. This is the end of this project, but there's another project in Kazakhstan, the project called PAGE. And there's some tasks on SPPs as well. Colleagues, we have received 27 answers. So let's wait for 1 more minute and then we pass the floor to Ria. While the colleagues are answering, can you think of an adaptation of those innovations in Moldova and Ukraine for Georgia? I've been listening to Ruslana and to Olena from Ukraine and what they've mentioned for their countries. If that exists, if that is already developed, we could try and adapt that for Georgia rather than creating that from scratch. So if the colleagues have been working in 2013, I mean, we've started this year only, so they can have more experience because we're still in a sort of a kindergarten level and they are more of a school or graduate level. So if there is a chance to somehow adapt those innovations for Georgia, that would be good. Thank you, Kaha. You were the last country to join, but still you've demonstrated a very good progress and we're grateful to you for that. Colleagues, I believe that's it. We're grateful for your answers. So Ria, please, the floor is yours. And now you can see the results of this small poll on your screens.
I'm just quickly going through the result. Maybe we can analyze further. Maybe we don't have much time to go through it right now if it's allowed. And thank you, Kaha. It's a very good point because as you know, EU for Environment project would continue for another 1 to 2 years. So during this time, it would be great it would be honor for UNEP to facilitate further your great effort in Georgia and running and also possibly adapting the work from Moldova and Ukraine.
Thanks so much, Ria. Looking forward.
Yeah. Thank you.
Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Kaha. And I would like to thank all the speakers today for sharing your experience, achievement, challenges in the field of sustainable public procurement and eco labeling. And it was very interesting to hear from different perspectives based on different background, your government side, the enterprise side, civil society, and also our project implementation partners. I would also like to thank our project partners, especially for this UNDA SPP project. We had a very rich experience and collaborating and working together with the government sectors, civil society, and technical centers and associations. I think it was overall, from my point of view at least, was a very rewarding and nice experience. And Finally, I also would like to thank Green Dossier team to organize this workshop and interpreters, and thank you for staying a bit longer than expected. And lastly, I also would like to thank everybody who participated, listened to this workshop online. And as Lesia said, and as Kaha and I briefly talked, and our Kazakh colleagues are mentioning, I think even the UNDA project ends as of this month in December, and there will be still lots of opportunities, and I hope opportunities and funding opportunities available for further promoting sustainable public procurement, eco labeling, and also supporting small and medium enterprise business side to be able to apply to the tender with sustainability criteria. So very much looking forward to continue working together with all of you. And let me stop this work by really thanking to everybody. Thank you.
И может еще включим все.
Maybe every one of you can switch on the cameras that you all have in order to make a very large photo of all the participants who stayed so long. So thank you, Ria. Thank you to all the colleagues. We're asking goodbye to you. Well, you had to premise, you know, some New Year gifts to all those who stayed till the very end of the workshop. You know,
I suggest a bottle of Georgian wine.
Half for the half of audience, Farid. Moldavian
Yes,
and
half Moldovan, half Georgian.
To keep the friendship, you know, to keep the friendship
and some French wine also.
Not to foster competitiveness, actually, just friendship.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And Merry Christmas
really
for those of you who will not
Merry
see.
Christmas.
Many thanks.
We keep in touch.
Happy to see your friends, and so looking forward to welcoming you, all of you in Georgia.
Oh yes, looking forward.
At least next year.
Yes.
Inshallah.
See you, inshallah.
Bye, everyone. Okay. All the best. Bye-bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.